Everything looks the same. The faces, the sky, even the cracks in the ceiling. I've lived this once already. Maybe I can make different choices this time. The system is silent, but the glitches are happening. This is Chapter 2. The shift has begun. Kat stood in front of her locker, spinning the combination slowly, pretending she needed time to remember how numbers worked. Students bustled around her, shoving jackets and books into narrow lockers, shouting greetings, swapping homework answers, and cafeteria gossip, with the effortless bravado of those who did not know how fragile everything really was. The hallway echoed with the slam of metal doors, the screech of boots over melting snow, and the hiss of a heater that couldn't quite decide if it wanted to warm the place or not. Her breath puffed faintly in the cold air as she shrugged off her jacket and tucked it into the hook inside. The hallway smelled of pencil shavings, damp wool, and the tired adhesive of old posters curling off cinder block walls. Nothing had changed, and that unsettled her more than she could explain. Kat closed her locker carefully, the metal latching catching slightly the way it always had, and turned towards her first class. Her boots squeaked softly against the linoleum as she walked, her body moving through the familiar space with the mechanical grace of memory. A few students brushed past her in tight clumps, the same effortless flock that had ignored her the first time around. No one noticed her, or maybe they did and just didn't care. She took a seat near the window, second row from the back, close enough to the rattling radiator that her boots steamed slightly in the dry heat. Her fingers found the small dent in the desk without thinking, a ghost of the hours she had spent tapping rhythms into the laminate to kill time. The frost had spidered over the outside of the window, turning gray sky into a muted, bruised canvas. It wasn't snowing yet, but the clouds sagged heavily with the promise of it. Mrs. Langley entered the room balancing a stack of reading packets. Her boots left faint wet prints on the floor as she crossed to the front. "Morning, everyone," she said, her voice brisk. "Let's ease into the day. Please take one and pass it back." Kat took her packet and handed the stack behind her. The lesson was something about character motivation and conflict. The words floated around her like mist, barely touching her. She watched her pencil move instead, idly scribbling the word again on the margin, over and over, until the page was a maze of looping, haunted lines. It felt strange sitting there, knowing exactly how the semester would unfold, and yet feeling more lost than she had the first time. She felt like a carbon copy of herself, reprinted, but faded in the places that mattered. Someone coughed. A chair scraped loudly across the tile. "Kat?" Miss Langley's voice cut through the fog. Kat blinked at her, startled. "Yes? Are you still with us?" Her face burned as the class turned to look. Sorry," Kat mumbled. Mrs. Langley nodded with a small, patient smile. "All right, let's move on." Kat sat very still after that, her heart hammering quietly in her chest. That hadn't happened last time. Mrs. Langley had barely acknowledged her existence before. Now it felt like the universe was tapping her on the shoulder, demanding she stop pretending to be invisible. By lunchtime, the worst of the embarrassment had faded. Kat sat near the edge of the cafeteria, tucked by the doors leading to the music room, where the cold crept in every time someone opened them. She liked it here. The sharp bite of cold air against her cheeks kept her sharp, anchoring her in her own skin. Her thermos sat unopened beside her sandwich. She wasn't really hungry. She watched the room instead, the ebb and flow of teenage alliances, the quiet war zones disguised as tables. Across the cafeteria she spotted him, the boy from the courtyard yesterday, navy hoodie. Hunched over a notebook, pencil flashing across the page, like he was trying to outrun whatever lived inside his mind. He didn't look up. Kat watched him for a moment longer and then looked away. She wasn't sure if she wanted him to look up at all. "Hey!" The voice startled her. She turned to find Talia standing there, collish and bright, all fake friendliness wrapped in a fashionable scarf. Talia, who had once been Kat's friend, or something resembling it. Back when Kat had tried to fit into the world with all her might, when everyone was kind and innocent, with the world of adolescence only a simmer in the horizon. Talia smiled too wide. Haven't seen you around much? Cat shrugged. I've been busy. Without asking, Talia plopped down across from her, flipping her hair over her shoulder in a practiced move. You always say that, she said, grinning. Still scribbling weird stories in your planner? Cat didn't answer. She didn't owe her that. Talia tilted her head, eyes narrowing slightly. You look different. Did you cut your hair? No. You seem older? Cat met her gaze evenly. Maybe I am. Talia blinked, the smile faltering for a fraction of a second before she laughed, high and easy. Right. Anyway, if you're free after school, a bunch of us are going to the rink. Cat nodded politely. Thanks. But she wouldn't go. She already knew Talia didn't mean it. She had said the same thing last time. The group had left without her, laughing and joking like she never existed. After school, Cat walked to Mina's elementary building. Mina spotted her from across the lot, her backpack bouncing wildly, one mitten flopping off her wrist like a tiny flag. She ran straight into Cat's arms, hugging her tightly around her waist. Moody! Cat smiled, hugging her back for a second longer than necessary. Ready to go home? Mina nodded eagerly. Can we stop at the bakery? Cat checked her pocket. $2 and a few coins, scraped together from the bottom of her jacket. Only if we split one, she said. Deal! The bakery smelled of warm bread and powdered sugar. It wrapped the small shop in a soft haze of comfort that felt almost unreal after the cold streaks outside. Cat let Mina pick. A sussing bun filled with sweet red bean paste, and they carried it carefully to the bench outside, shielding it from the lazy flurry of wet snow starting to drift down. They sat side by side, the cold metal of the bench seeping into their legs even through their coats. Mina leaned against her, small and solid, as they passed the bun back and forth, taking small, careful bites, careful not to spill the filling into their mittens. You're being nicer lately, Mina said, her voice muffled by a mouthful of pastry. Cat froze slightly, the half-chewed bite of bread turning heavy in her mouth. Wasn't I nice before? She asked, trying to keep her voice light. Mina shrugged, chewing thoughtfully. Oh, you know, you were just tired or sad or mad a lot. She said it with a simple, brutal honesty only a child could wield, not as an accusation, just a memory, as matter of fact, as naming the weather. Cat swallowed hard. The sesame bun stuck on the way down. Images flickered through her mind, sharp and ugly. Images of Mina tugging at her sleeve, begging for help with a school project, and Cat waving her off, too tired to care. And then another one of Mina standing in the rain, shivering, clutching a backpack, waiting for Cat when she had forgotten to pick her up. And another one of Mina's small face crumpling when Cat snapped at her for asking for dinner. Or at that one time when Cat had skipped out to waste another evening drifting nowhere, instead of spending one more moment at home amidst the poverty and despair. And worse, later, when Mina was older, a night that was thick with its sour taste of regret, when Mina had called her in panic and Cat hadn't come, not immediately, not when it still mattered. Cat had been so wrapped up in protecting the miserable little corner of life she had carved out for herself that she had let Mina face it alone. And Mina, sweet, brilliant Mina, had paid the price no teen should ever have to. She remembered hospital lights, sterile and buzzing overhead. She remembered the way doctors had murmured to each other behind glass panels. She remembered the way Mina's laughter, once so easy, had never fully come back after that. Even the science of the future, the neural regrowth, the mind-stitching therapies, the cognitive patchworks, none of it had ever been enough to fully repair what had been broken that night, and Kat had carried that failure all the way to her death. "I'm trying to be better," Kat said quietly, staring down at the wax paper between them. Her voice barely rose above the hush of passing cars and the muffled stomp of boots against slush. Mina beamed, her cheeks pink with cold and sugar. "I like this new you." Kat blinked quickly, the air stinging her eyes more than the wind could explain. She forced a smile and looked away, pushing down hard against the rising knot in her throat. She hadn't earned Mina's trust back then. Not even close, but maybe if she worked harder, longer, and without asking for forgiveness she didn't deserve, maybe this time she could. That night, after homework and brushing Mina's hair until it gleamed, Kat lay staring at the cracked ceiling above her bunk. Her body ached from the cold, her heart even more so. She whispered into the dark, fierce and fragile. "I don't know what I'm supposed to become, but I'm not wasting this chance. I'll be my family's hero. I'll be strong enough, smart enough. I'll be wealthy enough to lift us all out of this hellhole of a life. I'll change our futures." A crack above her simmered slightly, splintering into smaller paths she could not yet see. The race to change the world cannot be run alone. Meanwhile, in another city, in another part of the world, the wind snapped at the edges of Elijah's jacket as he crouched behind a maintenance shed, breath clouding the frozen night air. The compound stretched ahead of him, a gleaming, sterile arc of glass and reinforced steel, all perfect angles and mechanical heartbeats humming under the surface. A second-tier competitor in biotech, ripe for disruption. He checked his watch, 4 minutes to breach. The device strapped to his belt, a pulse jammer, experimental and untraceable, blinked once, twice, ready. Above him, the security cameras panned in a set pattern, their red lights muted by damp fog. Elijah moved like a shadow, slipping between pools of surveillance, hugging the dead angles mapped by weeks of preparation. At the service entrance, he dropped to one knee, disabling the magnetic seal with a practiced sweep of his fingers. A soft click, a hiss of pressurized equalizing. He slipped inside. The corridor smelled of bleach and burning plastic. Somewhere, deep inside, he could feel the thrum of the server room, the target. His finger itched to move faster, but patience was the first rule that had drilled into him. Move fast when you must. Move invisible when you can. He passed offices, now empty, their glass walls gleaming with reflected cold light. Half-finished patents, abandoned research, ideas that would never see the light of day unless someone stole them first. At the secure door, Elijah disabled the alarm with the jammer, slicing into the access panel with a tiny thermal blade. The lock popped, the door swung inward. He stepped into the server room, a cathedral of whirling fans and blinking green lights. Data, power, secrets. He slipped a drive from his jacket and slid it into the port with shaking hands. 3 minutes. He would be gone before anyone noticed. And yet, as he waited for the download to finish, a strange hollowness spread through his chest. This was winning, wasn't it? This was survival, proving he could be useful, proving he deserved a future in the empire his family had built, even if he had hated what he had become. The screen flashed, transfer complete. Elijah pulled the drive free and disappeared into the darkness the way he had come, heavier by several gigabytes of stolen hope and hindered by the weight of adding one more link to those strands of invisible chains. Far away in another city, a girl with a battered heart stared at the ceiling with cracked paint that looked like a map of impossible roads. She had made herself a promise, and somewhere beneath the surface, a forgotten thread of fate blinked and rerouted. The code was no longer executing the original script. If you're still here, then maybe the glitch found you too. Don't tell anyone, just follow the next transmission. You'll know it when it comes.